Today we're going to look at factorising harder quadratics. When I say a harder quadratic, I mean one that is in the form where you've got a number followed by a letter squared and then you've either got one term or two terms after it, where at least one of those doesn't have a letter afterwards. So we're going to look at the three-term ones because that's what's most common when we're looking at this type. What I thought we'd do first is that we would do the opposite of factorising, which is expanding brackets. So here I've got the brackets ready to be expanded. So we go do 2y times 2y to give us 4y squared, 2y times 7 to give us 14y, 3 times 2y to give us 6y, and 3 times 7 to give us 21. So we can see that the 3 and the 7, they give us our 21 that's on the end. The 2y and the 2y gives us a 4y squared. But this, if we were going from this one here, we could see that this is 3 and 7, or it could be 1 and 21, and we could do a little bit of trial and error to get there. Then we would have our 2y and our 2y, but it also could have been a 4y and a y on its own. That's why it's a bit more tricky, and then with multiplying the different numbers out, actually it's quite a lot of trial and error. It could take a long time. So the way that I teach it is I use something that I've been taught previously called bridging method. I like bridging method because it works every single time, but it does take a bit of getting used to. You do have to practice it quite a lot to be good at it, but once you're good at it, it works. It can work for the very hardest questions. There is sometimes a slight tweak that if it's two brackets and a number in front, you need to do a little bit extra, but it can work for the very hardest questions. So in bridging method, we look at two numbers that multiply together to give you something and then add or subtract to give you another number, which is quite similar to normal factorising. But the way that we find the two numbers that multiply together is we actually do 4 times 21. So if we use our ABC that you should be familiar with from quadratic formula, then we're doing numbers that multiply together to give us our AC, and then it's either add or subtract to give us our B. It's either an add or subtract according to this last sign that's in front of the number. If this is a plus, that's a plus. If that's a minus, that's a minus. Okay? That arrow hopefully shows that. So let's do this properly. 4y squared plus 20y plus 21. So it's numbers that multiply together to give you AC. So 4 times 21, as that's our ANLC, is equal to 84. So numbers that times together to give you 84. Then it's add to give us 20. So we're looking for the factors of 84 that can add to give us 20. You might be able to spot this quickly. You might need to take a bit of time to work it out. If you're taking a bit of time to work it out, you can do it step by step. So you could start at 1 and 84, well that's 85, so that doesn't work. 2 and 42, well that's 44, that doesn't work. 3 and 28, that's 31, that doesn't work. 4 and 21, well that's 25, that doesn't work. 5 doesn't go into 84 at all. 6 and 14, that adds to give us 20, so it's 6 and 14. So now we can set up our double brackets, and we're going to put one of each of the letters in each bracket because we know it's going to go to double bracket. We then use this sign here to go into our second bracket. Then we consider what do we have to times this by to get to this sign here. Well, a plus times another plus gives us a plus, so that's got to be a plus over there. Now we can put our bridges in, so bridge above, bridge below. The smallest number goes on top, so in this case that's going to be 6 on top. The biggest number goes on bottom, so that's going to be 14 on the bottom. We now compare 4 and 14. And we want to know what the highest common factor of 4 and 14 is. In this case it's 2. Well, it's always 2 if it's 4 and 14. Then we do 2 goes into 14 7 times. 7 goes into 21 3 times. and 3 goes into 6 2 times. And that's our answer. So what I've done is I've set up another example I can talk you through, and then I've got a worked one that I would suggest that you do for yourself after that. So you can pause the video and then I'll go through it step by step, so that hopefully you can see how you're getting on. So next example, 6p squared plus 13p plus 5. I'm going to do this slightly quicker. I'm not going to necessarily do all of the workings for every step. So we're doing 6 times 5 to get us numbers that times together to give you 30. Then this means it's add together to give you 13. Hopefully you can see that 3 and 10 both times together to give you 30 and add together to give you 13. So you don't need to write all the others. If you spot it straight away, great. Set up your brackets, p's in both. This symbol comes down to here. A positive times a positive gives me a positive here, so write positive in there. Put my bridges in, smallest on top, which is 3, biggest on bottom, which is 10, highest common factor of 6 and 10, which is 2. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 goes into 5 once. 1 goes into 3 3 times. And that's done. Okay, your turn question. So have a go at this question here, grab a piece of paper, write it out, follow all of the steps. I'm going to leave this working here so you have some idea of what it looks like without the arrows. And if you pause your video and I'll be back, then you can play it once you're ready. Okay, I'm going to start going through it. So I start by doing 4 times 15 to give me 60. I'm going to do my workings down here at the bottom just so I've got space. And it's add together to give you 23. Hopefully you can spot that 3 and 20 are the numbers that times together to give you 60 and add together to give you 23. I can now put my brackets in. I'm using x's this time, so they go both. This plus comes down over to here. Positive times a positive gives me a positive. Now put my bridges in. Smallest on top, biggest on bottom, so that's 3 on the top, 20 on the bottom. Compare the 4 and the 20 for the highest common factor. Highest common factor of 4 and 20 is 4. Now we're doing 4 into 20 goes 5 times. 5 into 15 goes 3 times. And 3 into 3 goes once. I don't like the fact that I've got a 1 here, so in this case I would rewrite it as 4x plus 3 in one bracket and x plus 5 in the other bracket. Okay, I hope that helps factorising quadratics where there's a coefficient in front of a letter squared.